Why is Rush in a jar? And what is this? Are these new Doors items coming in the next update? Well, it is a little complicated. You see, today's daily teaser revealed to us something quite interesting, that being a whole bunch of items originally planned to be added to Doors, but eventually were scrapped for one reason or another. Now, this should mean these items aren't going to see the light of day anymore, but given how they were posted as today's teaser, I have a feeling some may return in the next update. I mean, that just makes sense given how they were revealed to us right now. However, contrary to many other items in the game, these new scrapped ones are, let's just say, very, very odd. So, in this video, we'll be analyzing each of these revealed items, and trying to figure out what exactly they do and how they would be incorporated into the next update. So, with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright. So, the first new item shown to us was this strange purple bag with a skull icon on it. Now, when I first saw this teaser, many people were calling it something like the Bag of Death, due to the skull label on it. However, I believe this has a completely different role. Given the color scheme of the bag, I believe this item was actually from the Halloween event, and I think its functionality would be tied into that. Instead of this being something related to death itself, I believe this could have been a bag of candy, an item which, when used, would automatically give the player some candy and by extension a random status effect. The item was most likely like gambling. Using it would allow you to gain a useful buff or get some terrible effect, and maybe even in some cases instant death. It would be even more random than just normal individual pieces of candy from the Halloween event, as you wouldn't know what's inside of the bag and what the candies are. If it were to be re-implemented in the next update, I think it would still function as I just described and be found throughout all of the floors. Moving on though, our next item is definitely very odd. What we are seeing is a jar containing a small version of Rush inside of it, and I have several theories as to what this could mean. One idea I had is maybe this was a prototype version of the crucifix, where instead of banishing the entities with the crucifix, you trap them inside of these jars to neutralize their abilities. Although, given how old the crucifix actually is, I mean it's been in the game since release, I doubt this is its true purpose. Another theory I had though is maybe this is some helpful, friendly, and tiny version of Rush that you could keep as a pet of sorts, and it would help you in-game by alerting you when the real Rush is coming or something like that. Yeah, I'm not really too sure how this item could work or how it could be obtained. If it ever were to be implemented into the main game, I am completely unsure how. This one definitely is very strange. Next up, we also have another very weird item, that being some sort of pink stick. Now, this item is unique, as it actually has a very peculiar pink outline surrounding it, a trait present with no other item inside of the game. Now, when I first saw this pink stick, I immediately thought that this could be present in the outdoors subfloor. Think about it, the subfloor contains a load of trees for players to just grab a stick from. And given the introduction of the new pink petal item, an item which is theorized to buff pre-existing items in the game, such as the bulk light and crucifix, both the color and the overall existence of the stick can be justified. Now, as for what the item will do, I'm unsure. Maybe we have to whack something with it, like an entity or some kind of mechanism in order to make it work, such as a generator. And buffing a normal stick with the pink petal would make the item work better and make it look pink, as we see in this teaser. Either way, this is one of the only items with a relatively clear-cut existence, and if it were re-implemented, I think it could be found in the outdoors subfloor. Moving on though, our next item is probably one of the most clear-cut, and it's actually a redesign of a pre-existing item already in the game. This appears to be a revamp of the Holy Hand Grenade, one of the most well-known weapons present within Doors from the April Fool's 2023 event. Now, we already know how the Holy Hand Grenade works. You toss it towards a player or an entity, and it explodes them. So maybe a nerfed version of that could actually be implemented into the main game, such as where it only stuns entities rather than actually killing them, featuring this new redesign. However, something really interesting I want to note is that this may not be the item's only purpose. If we take a look at the Holy Hand Grenade's new model, we can see that it is actually egg-shaped, and I believe this isn't a coincidence. As you may know, Doors was originally going to be in this year's egg hunt, but dropped it out due to controversies. So it's possible this is what their egg could have looked like. Still, it's also possible this could just be a normal usable item rather than an egg hunt egg, which in that case I am excited to use it as a weapon. Next up, the following item shown to us was actually a slice of pizza. This one is very obvious, but if I had to guess, this item would function similarly to the other food items in the game, such as bread and cheese. What this means is that when the item is used, players would gain a little bit of health. However, it's also possible the item could have allowed players to gain additional strengths, such as a speed boost, as several other food items in the game already just have the sole purpose of healing, such as the smoothie. Now, as to how this item can be obtained, I assume it will likely just be like bread and cheese again, where only Louis can provide it through trading with him. Out of all the items presented in this teaser though, this probably has the most likely chance of being re-implemented into the next update, probably due to how simple it is. Still, it is nice to have more healing options inside of doors, but I do hope this pizza works a little differently from the cheese and bread, as those items are essentially just reskins of each other as they both heal the same amount. Lastly though, the final item shown to us is probably one of the most weird, and that is a drone. Drones are typically used in video games to either allow the player to get a view of or interact with inaccessible locations, so it's possible this item could be used for that in the next update. For example, let's say in the outdoors, in order to solve a puzzle, you need to use the drone to fly on top of a structure and view a hidden code written up there. This code couldn't be viewed by the player due to how high it is, but using the drone it becomes very easy. Another example would be the player using the drone to grab an item located way high up, such as a key. Something like that could be the purpose of this item, although given the time period doors seems to take place in, for such a modern item to appear in the game is somewhat strange. Still, I do feel it could be a welcome addition if re-added. So, to summarize, a whole bunch of rather odd items were revealed to have been scrapped from doors, and I believe they could be re-implemented in the next update. I attempted to explain how these items could function based on their designs, such as how the bag could contain volatile candies given its color scheme, and how the pizza could heal players when eaten as other food items indoors can do that. But some of them were really difficult to decipher, such as the Jar of Rush, which I have no clue about. Some of the items, such as the Holy Hand Grenade revamp, may also have different purposes besides just being a usable item, such as potentially being part of official Roblox events. All in all though, many of these items seem fun to use, especially the drone, and I can't wait to see at least some of them be re-implemented in the next update. So with all of that being said, let me know in the comments how you think these items will work, especially ones like the Jar of Rush, as I genuinely am confused about how that will work, as well as why you think they were scrapped from the game, as many of these seemed fun to use. And with all of that being said, thank you all for watching and I hope you enjoy.